Ready. Play.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Talking Tennis, Indian Wells edition. It's great to be back. I'm Nick, in case you can't read the name on my screen, and I'm with regular Damian Gust. Damian, how are you doing? Where are you coming to us from?
Yeah, I'm actually in Székesfehérvár right now in Hungary. So spending the week, almost the full week until Saturday at the Challenger here. But of course, the time zones are actually kind of nice because when I get back from the courts, soon enough the Indian Wells action starts. So I can see plenty of it. As you guys know, it's been a bit quiet on the channel here. During the first week of Indian Wells, and we just, me along with Nick, just thought we have to stop that. We have to do something. Now, actually, John organized it, of course, but yeah, he's not gonna be here. But we're gonna talk about anything that's in Indian Wells. Mario is also supposed to join. I don't know if he's gonna have his dog with him. Maybe let's. I'm gonna ask you, like, are you watching any match right now, or are we just gonna go talk about what's been happening?
I think we're going to talk about what's been happening, but
Okay.
I do actually have a match on at the minute. And me being me, I've gone with a WTA match, and I'm going with the current defending champion at the WTA finals, Caroline Garcia, playing the former US Open finalist, Leylah Fernandez, who also happen to be two of my favorite players to watch. So I thought I'd put that one on. It was a toss up between that and Hubert Hurkacz versus Tommy Paul.
I've chosen something completely different, actually. I've chosen a match where I strongly feel that there's a huge chance for the upset, and it's France Cerundolo against Felix Auger-Aliassime. I just think, Felix in Indian Wells, it has not been a good combination. He definitely likes to have that little bit of pop from the surface as well, and here the ball just sits up, which I think is perfect for Cerundolo and his forehand. And yeah, so far it's been very tight, and I'm mostly gonna, I guess, look at some other stuff while we're talking, but from time to time, I will try to pay attention to the match as well. I only have one screen here, so that's, I'm limited in that regard.
Same here. I don't have my elaborate super setup that I usually do. To be honest, I thought the same thing as you. I thought, potential upset when I saw Cerundolo against Auger-Aliassime, because I thought Cerundolo is in decent form, and like you said, Indian Wells and Felix haven't always been great friends. Actually, Indian Wells seems to have this reputation for, like, certain players don't seem to like it there, like Daniil Medvedev. We've said on the I think I was talking about it on the Popcorn Tennis podcast with John. He's traditionally struggled here, and he was complaining yesterday quite a bit about the speed of the court. Other players who struggled here, Andy Murray. Yeah, Andy Murray.
He lost to Delbonis here, right? I mean, a few years ago on the hard courts, which was pretty shocking.
Yeah. No, this is not a happy handicap. He has been to a final here once, I think, but
yeah, like 2009 or something like that.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
So obviously, let's talk a bit about what's happened before. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in the tennis in general. It's close between Garcia and Fernandez on my screen. And for those who are interested in the Hurkacz-Paul match, Hurkacz got the first set 6-4. Tommy Paul is a break up. No, it's 2 breaks up. 3-love, 30-love in the second.
Yeah, basically, there's going to be a third set. So if you want to watch it, you should now, because you're probably going to get a lot more action there.
Yeah. And Cerundolo and Auger-Aliassime is still in the first set, going with serve. Probably about to get to 4-all. But Damian, so what's been kind of the story from Indian Wells so far that's probably interested you the most? Or stories?
That's a good question. I mean, on the men's side, I would say there's been some upsets, but in general, I considered this event, to be pretty open. Maybe it's because of Indian Wells. Even though Daniil Medvedev is, of course, in such amazing form, I wasn't really thinking of him as a contender for the title here. Maybe not even or maybe just not as one of the main ones. But Tsitsipas and Ruud going out was pretty huge, I think. Of course, with Tsitsipas, we have this whole sort of conversation topic about his shoulder injury. which if he brings it up, it's probably kind of important. And you could see that in his match against Thompson, there were large chunks of it where he couldn't really he wasn't trying to drive through his backhand. He was only using his slice, which infamously, I guess, is not really a strong shot for him.
It's got better.
It's got better. It's like every single time Stefanos Tsitsipas plays a match and his backhand slice looks solid, there's like 100 tweets. Oh, Tsitsipas has finally done something with the backhand slice. And then there's another match where it again looks terrible. But of course, so we believe, I guess, I don't know if you agree, but the common, I guess, perception is that this played a bit of a, this played a part in this upset. I honestly thought that Casper Ruud, even though his form has been so mediocre to start the year, I thought he was going to do so well here. And that did not pan out at all. I just thought the conditions were going to give him a great chance to rebuild himself. And honestly, Cristian Garin played a fantastic match yesterday. So kudos to him as well.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same thing. I got a little bit, again, when I said, I think Ruud could be a contender here because the conditions, and also, yes, his form has been mediocre, but the last few big events, his form's been mediocre, and then he's got to a final. So I'm thinking US Open and the ATP finals. Didn't happen in Australia, but there's definitely been events where this seemed like the perfect time for Casper Ruud to kind of do something. But as you said, Garin did well. Garin's one of those players who chooses to play well only a few times a year, but when he does play well, he's actually pretty good. Usually when it's on clay, although weirdly good on grass as well.
Yeah.
Two-time Wimbledon quarter. Is he two-time Wimbledon quarter?
One was a forefront, I think, but the forefront had like a very easy draw. It was, I think, like Zapata Miralles, Martinez, something like that. It's still the second draw wasn't that strong either, but I think it kind of makes sense. Even on hard courts, he's had some runs like the quarterfinal run in Paris, the Bercy, of course. And I just think for a clay guy, he generally plays quite flat. He's very good on serve, very good on return. So it kind of makes sense. And of course, Indian Wells is like probably the closest you're going to get with a hard court to clay, I suppose. So, we see it in the results and in what the players are saying all the time. And it makes sense that a guy like Garin would do well. In fact, he's playing Davidovich Fokina, who also seems extremely comfortable in these conditions.
Yeah, I know that fellow tennis YouTuber Gil Gross was heavily backing Alejandro Davidovich Fokina to do well, possibly even beat Daniil Medvedev. Yes, he does seem to be comfortable in slower conditions. We've seen it. Obviously, he's a former Monte Carlo finalist, and he does seem to be doing pretty well. But do you see him pulling off a big upset?
Would it be a big upset? I mean, if he plays Medvedev and beats him, I'm not even sure. And I don't think Zverev beating Medvedev would be that big of an upset either. I guess it's just how low my belief in Daniil Medvedev in Indian Wells is. It's more surprising to me that he's never done that well in Miami. Done that well. I mean, he's reached a couple of quarterfinals in Miami, but of course, compared to what we know Daniil Medvedev can do on almost every hard court in the world, it is kind of still subpar. In Indian Wells, he was always uncomfortable. And I guess I just wouldn't, maybe if he lost to Nakashima, maybe if he lost to Ivashka, sure, then that would be like a huge upset. But against Zverev, I think he already has a decent chance of going out. And the same would be against Davidovich Fokina, really, probably. If Davidovich Fokina beats Garin, of course, because that also does not have to be that easy. I just don't think of Daniil Medvedev as that sort of unbeatable great when he's playing in Indian Wells. I'm probably going to start thinking of him like that again when we get to Miami.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. And actually, I think a lot of that's fueled a lot of the reason why I think that isn't just because of Medvedev's poor record, but also if you look historically, or at least in the last sort of 5 years or so, Acapulco's been a better warm-up for Indian Wells for a lot of people than Dubai, whereas Dubai's been a better warm-up for Miami, or at least if you can do reasonably well in Indian Wells off the back of Dubai, then you're in for a good shout. So Medvedev definitely in Miami is going to be a factor, although Miami courts have slowed down since they moved. But I would agree that he's probably in the mix.
Well, there are some some rumors. I don't know if you heard this, but there's been some rumors which like keep popping up over like my DMs or just timeline on Twitter that Miami is supposed to be like very, very fast this year. That there's going to be a huge contrast between Indian Wells and Miami. So of course we're going to see when we actually like get there, when we actually can see play. So probably next Monday. That's what I've been hearing, that apparently Miami is supposed to be a lot faster this year. We'll see.
Breaking news from Damian. I haven't heard this at all, but that's interesting if that's the case. I would definitely be up for seeing Miami being a bit quicker, because it was a little bit frustrating to watch at points last year. I prefer fast courts as a general rule to watch, or at least something that's not too slow anyway. But nothing against clay, because it has its own kind of intrigue to it. But
when it's clay on a hard court, it's a little bit disappointing a lot of the time. Like there were some good matches, of course, so far. But plenty of players do not know how to handle these conditions, and then we see some pretty awful tennis. But of course, as a whole, it's still the best in the world competing, and there's always something to look forward to.
I definitely think the tournament's taken a while to warm up. We haven't had necessarily the kind of the big name clashes we've been used to. Because of every single seed in both draws getting a bye. So I think we're only just starting to get these sort of big name matches really hotting up, like Fernandez Garcia and Hurkacz Paul. If you want to go with that, if you see that's between two Grand Slam semi-finalists for that men's match. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses. Calling the men's draw this year has been pretty tough, because Medvedev, as you say, is informed, but doesn't like Indian Wells or slow courts. Alcaraz was coming in with injury concerns. Tsitsipas was coming in with injury concerns. So it was like, who was going to win this thing? I mean, my instinct was to go with Taylor Fritz defending his title, but he had a horrendous draw. I still think he could do it, but if Alcaraz, after watching him or seeing how he's done so far, injury doesn't seem to be playing too much of a factor at the minute, probably is the favourite. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, I would go with Alcaraz, although it has to be said that like his draw is awful as well. If you have to play Kokinakis, Griekspoor, and Draper in the first 3 rounds, I mean, all in form, all very dangerous, all capable of taking the racket out of your hands. Draper maybe not necessarily in form, given the fact that he was coming into this event after a layoff and was had a leg injury that forced him out of Doha. But of course, like just looking at how he's playing here, and also with the conditions being nice for his lefty forehand, I think counts. And like if Alcaraz, like my general feeling was before the tournament that if Alcaraz has to play something like that, Kokinakis, Griekspoor, Draper, or maybe Draper, I guess, is the most dangerous player to him in that section, even though maybe Draper loses to Murray, but I think Draper has a better chance of troubling Alcaraz. But if just looking at the fact that he might have to play Kokinakis, Griekspoor, I was kind of afraid that the Spaniard was going to lose in the first or the second round. After seeing what he did to Kokinakis, I am certainly a lot more confident in his chances, and he does seem like the main candidate right now. As you said, Fritz, he had a tough second round, but otherwise, if it got to that Fritz de Minaur 4th round, then maybe he would have been in trouble. They played last year, in fact, and it was a 7-6 in the third for Taylor Fritz. But in general, I think it's there's a pretty big chance that we're gonna get another maiden Masters 1000 winner as well, because it would be funny, because last year we had 8 events of this category and 5 of them finished with first-time champions, which is certainly kind of unheard of for us, because we started watching tennis during the Big Three era. The last time this happened, it was a lot before then, like probably even in the 20th. It wasn't the ATP 1000 series back then, but some
I know.
Tournaments that were replaced eventually. Yeah,
I think we're definitely settling into a much wider field of top players compared to 3 or 4 as we've been used to for the last 20 years or so. I definitely think that I definitely agree with you. It could happen. I think I'm still edging towards we'll probably get a repeat champion like Alcaraz or Fritz, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got our first time winner. As you said, that seems to be happening more often. If I was going to back someone in the men's side to win a Master, their first 1,000 title, I would probably go for another American. I'd go with either Tommy Paul or even Francis Tiafoe, because he's looking pretty good at the minute. And doesn't seem to mind. I think he's comfortable on all courts, provided he's got a crowd to back him. And
there's also this guy Holger Rune, I think is his name.
Oh yeah, he's already won one.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, you're right. And he was one of the 5 maiden champions last year, of course.
Yeah.
No, never mind. Forget that I said this. But I guess there's also guys like Rublev or Sinner, who could win their first, and no one would be surprised at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sinner won it. He just needs to stop getting injured. That seems to be the problem.
Has he been injured this year, though?
I'm pretty sure he was injured during the February.
Was he?
Yeah.
I mean, he pulled out of Marseille, but that was like after 2 tough weeks, and maybe he had something. You're right, like with his thigh or something like that. And then Brancaccio went in instead of him and played Fields. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. Actually, Brancaccio was supposed to. That was that round 2 that no one showed up for, because all the lucky losers have already left from Marseille. Yeah, there was some slight issue. You're
right. To answer your question, Ghost, I prefer the term diverse, personally. I think that's much more exciting. And the answer is yes, I think so. Although I think the WTA is settling down into a field of probably 5, 6, maybe even 5, 6 players who are more likely to win than others. We might even get that even more solidified when this next generation fully takes over. Next generation, I'm thinking of people like Coco Gauff, Linda Noskova, Emma Raducanu, Lena Fernandez.
Some pretty bold calls there, but no, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree.
Brenda Favitova when she gets here. I think that we'll definitely. It might not be 4 players, but it'll be wider than 4. But there will definitely be. It might be like how WTA was 20 years ago, when there were like 10 solid players all competing for titles. And I think the ATP is going in that direction as well. I don't see, definitely don't see the Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas generation having a stranglehold on it. Excuse my door. It's the Ghost. Don't worry about it. I don't think Alcaraz is quite ready yet to completely take control. He might, and I think he'll be challenged fairly regularly by Rune and Sinner as well. So I don't see there being like another big 4 anytime soon on the men's tour.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to become as inconsistent / diverse, but it's certainly, we're entering an era where we're actually going to enter a slam and have no clue who's going to be in the semifinals. And that's, in a way, that's actually good, Some tennis fans are definitely a little fed up with the same names all over again. And some would actually, want them to stay until they are 50. And that's fair. There's a question from Nurlan as well. Do you think Raducanu is underrated as a player? That's a tough one, because underrated can mean a lot of different things. I mean, I think she gets a lot of hate for just showing up at in some various sponsoring deals and stuff, which we don't actually know that this is stopping her from practicing or something like that. I think people certainly have the common perception is that she fluked that US Open run, which I think is just straight up untrue. And I think she's got a great chance if she can, especially also like you mentioned with Sinner, if she can just finally get over all these physical issues. She's got every chance of being a contender for major titles again. I think she totally has the game to do that, even more so than her US Open final opponent, Leylah Fernandez, to me.
Yeah. Speaking of Fernandez, she's just saved break point. So I would agree with you though, Damian, on all those points. I think Raducanu is a very talented player, and I think on the sponsorship thing, I'd say more players managed to practice and have loads of sponsors than ones who didn't. Serena Williams, heavily sponsored. Maria Sharapova, very heavily. Had a lot of backing. And
Naomi Osaka.
Naomi Osaka managed to make it work for like a couple of months at a time. It's. I think people have this sort of stereotype after seeing what happened to Anna Kournikova, which I think there were wider issues beyond.
But I mean, she was never really a Grand Slam title contender, right?
I think she had injury issues as well, but there was. But yeah, I think that's kind of what people have in their head. Or someone like Eugenie Bouchard, who I think, again, was more derailed by injury than anything else. Raducanu definitely has got the game for it. I think when she plays aggressive, she's very hard to beat, provided that she's controlled aggression. And I do think that the progress she's making under this coach that she's with now, I've forgotten his name off the top of my head, he used to coach Bencic at one point. I think it's looking positive. And actually, I think her run at Indian Wells has been something that caught my eye because I was expecting her to crash out round one. I thought she'd lose to Kovanic.
I'm now trying to think of it, and it's frustrating. The guy who was with Bencic when she won Olympic gold, right?
Probably, yeah.
Jesus. I'm going to Google that.
Go for it. Yeah. Raducanu, I thought she'd beat Kovanic. I thought that she'd be coming in off an injury, a little bit rusty. Kovanic can, on her day, knock anyone off the court. But at the end of the day, Raducanu came out there, was pretty solid. Kovanic misfired. And then Linette,
Sebastian Sachs.
There we go. Linette, I thought, was dangerous, but doesn't seem to be playing the level of tennis that would take her to the Australian Open semi-finals. But those are the kind of matches that last year Raducanu was still losing and she's not. I think that Raducanu's doing well. I think Haddad Maia might be a bit too tough, but we'll see. I'm kind of going for cautious optimism when it comes to Emma Raducanu. And that's possibly because I'm British, but I also just don't like it when people come down on one person.
For no reason.
Yeah.
For virtually no reason, you know.
Yeah,
She's
I agree.
got a great brand. Why wouldn't she use it?
Yeah, and I agree with you. You can't fluke a slam.
I actually haven't said that. I think her level in these matches more tells me that it wasn't a fluke. I think in some cases, Cam Norrie fluked Indian Wells. I'm sorry to any Brits out there, but when you look at his path to the title, and how he played there as well, I just think it wasn't really
the Indian Wells is a slam.
Fee. The fifth slam, the fifth slam.
It's you could, I can see why you call that. I would say that because Norrie was seeded, wasn't he? So he would have had a bye. So he had to win 6 matches, not 7. So that's where I would kind of, if he'd had to play one more match, would he have still won it? Depends on who he was playing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, in general, he's the opposition there wasn't that great. Let me quickly actually pull it up because I just started doing that. Basilashvili, Dimitrov, Schwartzman, Paul, Bautista Agut, and Sandgren losing 4 sets in a row. I mean, losing 4 sets
players, but I agree with you. It wasn't the toughest.
Not really. But anyway, that's not really what we're talking about, I guess, with Raducanu anyway, right? I mean, the way she just crashed that field and was just playing tennis that could easily give her another slam. in a few years. Nurlan says that she is better than Kudermetova, Bencic, or even Sakkari. I think it's a very fair call. I mean, Bencic is one that I could probably kind of argue with, but like Kudermetova, she hasn't really shown, the ability to contend for big titles. Generally, she loses in either like a final or a semi or to a peaking opponent. Same with Sakkari, really, even though she's in the semifinals, just every single week, basically. And yeah, maybe Bencic is I would agree with, but I would argue with, but otherwise. So you said that Raducanu probably will lose to Haddad Maia, in your opinion?
I reckon probably. I mean, she's up pretty soon. I can't remember which match she's after, but I think that's likely. Although Haddad Maia's another player that's really tough to predict at the minute.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a marginal thing. It really depends on. I think Haddad Maia will make it a grind, and Emma might struggle with that one physically. But on the other hand, if Haddad Maia's off to any level and Raducanu's on to any degree, that could be really competitive, and I could see Emma winning that.
Yeah, she's in the third round, but I generally did not like the Indian Wells conditions for Raducanu. But before the match against Linette, I actually thought she would win because both of them really struggled, I think. Linette, that was such that Australian Open run was such a weird thing because she basically played like very similar players. It was super like the conditions favored flat hitters. She was able to redirect that pace so easily, and against Raducanu, she had to actually do a lot by herself as well, and she kind of struggled with it. But anyway, I don't think Raducanu or Haddad Maia are close to winning this event. So maybe let's talk about that. Like, who do you think on the women's side has shown themselves as like the prime contenders? Of course, there's one very simple answer, but I'm sure you're gonna come up with something different.
No. There is only one answer. It is Iga Swiatek. It is Iga Swiatek. I mean, I think the fact that she was annoyed with herself for dropping a single game to Claire Liu tells you something. I mean, look, it really depends. She's only losing to top 10 players at the minute who are having a good day or who have games that can cause her problems. It'll be interesting to see how she does if she gets to the final, because she's probably either playing Krejčíková or Sabalenka, both players who have shown very recently that they can cause her problems. But Rebecca maybe in the semis as well. She might run into problems there, but I think that Swiatek has a little bit more consistency to her that makes her a bit more of a solid favourite right now. And against anyone outside the top 10, she's just annihilating them. Yeah,
there are like Rybakina and Garcia. They are in her half, and they have caused her problems for sure. I think like both are one of the worst matchups for her on tour for sure. I just don't think they can beat her in Indian Wells, with the conditions favoring Iga so much. With basically being clay-ish. I don't know if Rybakina and Garcia just can hit through her on a court like that. And I think John wanted us to talk about Swiatek Andreescu, and I'm not sure there's gonna be that much to talk about. Maybe if Bianca just gets herself together for a big match, I think she has this sort of ability. Of course, she's won Indian Wells in the past, and she has even though she has a pretty aggressive game, she has a lot of variety as well. So this could help her, but I still think she needs like a big off day from Iga. Even though sometimes Swiatek winning matches like 6-0, 6-1 doesn't actually mean that much, like at the Australian Open, for example, or in Dubai. But in this case, I think she still just needs to land the pole on a pretty poor day to have any sort of shot.
And I would agree. If you look at the matches that she's lost so far in 2023, of which has been 3, 2 of them were on a bad day for her. The Rebecca loss arguable, but and Krejčíková, I mean, I don't want to take too much away from them because they also played incredibly well on those 2 days, in the United Cup and in the Dubai final. But you also have to admit that Swiatek was on a bad day. It was it's both at the same time. the opponent having a good day, Swiatek having a bad day.
But I mean, also with the United Cup, the fact that the States had to, they didn't have to move anywhere. The Polish team was flying over from Brisbane to Sydney, a much faster court. Also in Melbourne, also a very fast court. And then in Dubai, the aspect of Iga's cold, which, maybe she still would have lost, but definitely impacted her play in some way, at least from the semifinals onwards. So, anytime she loses, there's a lot of other conditions. Maybe we're actually trying to look for them, maybe we're actively doing that because, she just be so good that whenever she loses, we're like, hey, there has to be another reason.
Yeah. And let's face it, we've done that with other players as well. Whenever Serena Williams has lost, there has to be a reason for it. Whenever Djokovic or Nadal or Federer lose, there have to be a reason for it.
There's this famous, Rafael Nadal has never lost injured or whatever theory or something like that. And it has never lost not injured, of course.
Yeah, never lost not injured. Which we know is not true. Novak Djokovic would definitely confirm it's not true. I think Swiatek, heavy favourite. Doesn't mean she can't be beaten, but we have to see how the tournament goes. Yeah, people commenting on Sakkari and Krejčíková. Agree with your comment about Krejčíková being a threat at the French Open. I think this year is going to be about Krejčíková breaking back into the definitely top 10. I could see her being back in the top 5, top 4 as well with the way she's playing right now. Is there anyone else that you think? How's Sabalenka looking to you, the Australian Open champion? Because let's face it, she kind of lost to Krejčíková in Dubai as well, and Krejčíková had an amazing day. Sabalenka kind of wilted at the end of the match, but was pretty competitive throughout. I mean, no one's really talking about her that much, Indian Wells, which is surprising me because she had all the hype just a month ago.
Yeah, I guess it's partly, part of that is probably the conditions, although I guess it's not that poor for her. She has a lot of time to settle for these huge strokes. I have not seen her much against Rodina. And, I doubt even if I did, it would tell me much, right? I mean, a 6-6 love victory, it usually isn't that much of maybe it can signify that she's playing well. But, I doubt we'd know much more after an hour of her playing Rodina. Of course, Tsurenko withdrew. So, basically she runs into Krejčíková again without that much preparation, even you'd say, right? And she's still the favorite according to the bookies, but it's much closer than when they played in Dubai, obviously. But as you said, I think it's kind of forgotten how close Sabalenka was to winning that much in Dubai and how much of a meltdown it sort of took for Krejčíková to progress further, which of course pales in comparison with what she did towards the end of the week, beating whoever she beat in the semis that I cannot remember. And Swiatek Pegula, was it? I think
Pegula, she beat the top 3 seeds.
Oh, because, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I was having a look at sort of form. So I track people's form ahead of each individual tournament based on historically what's a good sign for it. And even already, we're looking ahead to Miami, I would say 4 contenders for Miami would be Swiatek, Krejčíková, Sabalenka, and Pegula. Can't really look past those 4, really. And even here at Indian Wells, probably hard to look past those 4.
Pegula has been struggling, and I guess again, the conditions aren't great for her, but she's still winning. She's still pulling off these wins, which is kind of what she's been known for, right? But I'm not sure she's making the quarter, the semis. She's playing Kvitova now, then Sakkari or Pliskova. That sounds kind of tough with the way she's been. Maybe not barely making it through, because against Georgie it wasn't barely, but still kind of having to fight through rather than actually.
Someone who I think we shouldn't rule out, Evening Jethro.
Hey, Jethro, hey.
Yeah. Someone we shouldn't rule out, Coco Gauff. These conditions, she loves it. I could very much imagine her being an Indian Wells champion. She's gone deep in a lot of tournaments. She's hit a lot of the tick boxes I would see for a potential Indian Wells champion. This year might be tough because I don't see her beating a top-level Swiatek in the final. But if Swiatek was to have a bad day or crash out early, that opens things up. If Pegula's struggling, Goff could overturn some of that sort of rivalry. It would then depend on how she handled Krejčíková in the semis. Yes, there's that forehand problem that we all know about, which is the main thing that's not messing me getting too hyped on her. But I would throw her out there as a potential title contender in Indian Wells this year and probably in future years.
Yeah, I mean, if she is to win a big title off clay, Indian Wells is a good call for sure. I definitely agree with this. It also feels like someone like Pettersson, whom she's playing, tomorrow, right? Yeah. Can't really touch her because, she's more of a grinder. And yeah, against Goff, you need to put pressure on her forehand. And it's hard in these conditions. It's simply hard. Not everyone can do it. Linda Noskova couldn't do it. And I wonder who can in this draw. I also think that someone that maybe we're not really looking at and definitely weren't looking at before the event, before the event, some rounds got played out. I think maybe even Pliskova could be like a strong contender here. In theory, initially I thought that, slower conditions, maybe she's not going to be that good. But actually, I've found so far, especially in her match against Kudermetova, that she kind of likes it. With her subpar movement, having so much time is actually pretty good for her, I think. And I don't know. I've enjoyed how huge she's been able to go on her strokes. But of course, she is in that very competitive section where she would need to beat Sakkari and then Kvitova or Pegula. So in that sense, at least Goff has this one theoretically simpler round. But yeah, Goff against Krejčíková, Sabalenka, we're probably going to be favoring the latter player, whoever that may be.
Yeah, more likely Krejčíková. Possibly, but I probably go that direction. I agree with you about Pliskova. Although I will say, don't forget that she is very comfortable in Rome, which is proper clay.
Double bagel in the final. No, but she's had her clay rounds. She's had her clay rounds for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely am not surprised. By the way, it's a tiebreak between Fernandez and Garcia in the second set. Ghost is wondering, how do we rate Kvitova's chances? I mean, traditionally, Kvitova doesn't like slow courts. That's the problem.
She's also had her clay runs, but I guess mostly Madrid. One match that I will always be mentioning is that win over Serena in Madrid, which was honestly one of the best WTA single performances, not matches because, Kvitova just crushed her, but just single performances that I've seen. But yeah, I just don't know if I trust Kvitova to win 6 matches, right? That's, I guess, the big deal. She has been, of course, on occasion capable of producing her best tennis in recent years, but she just rarely does it 6 times in a row. Of course, she's won titles recently, something on grass last year, but just doing that for six matches in a row as on a slow court sounds kind of far-fetched.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. But watch out for her in Miami if the court's that fast. Probably if the Miami courts are as fast as you're hearing, does this favour Sabalenka out of the 4 that we've mentioned?
You'd think so after the Australian Open, right? I mean, Rybakina as well, but Rybakina has a lot more is a lot more draw dependent because Sabalenka has to be in that bottom spot and Swiatek has to be at the very top. But Rybakina can be a bit of a wild card, even though of course she's not a wild card anymore and will have a very high seeding. But we just have no clue which section of the draw she will land in. So I would say that if Miami indeed is going to be as fast as the rumors are, then probably the ladies who did well at the Australian Open should also have a good chance of doing well in Miami.
Yeah, and it would probably be a very good indicator for who's going to do well at Wimbledon as well, which has traditionally been on both the men's and the women's side.
I mean, 4 months, right? Anything can happen in these 4 months. I was recently wondering about this actually in Medvedev's case. like, of course, he's in amazing form, and I'm far from something that I think Owen has tweeted about a few times, that he kind of feels like these events are useless because there's no slam on hard courts after that. I follow like at least challengers daily, so I don't really care like when the event is placed. I basically am excited for every single event the same way. But for Medvedev, like in the spot where he is right now in his career, it's nice to get more titles. It's always nice, right? But just the main focus has to be getting more slams than just one. And yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that he caught this form in February when the next slam he can win is in 6 months, maybe in 5 if we count Wimbledon.
I would say it's not completely irrelevant. So I've said, like, let's talk about the men's side. Like, up until Wimbledon 2022, so last year, the champion in Miami usually made semi-finals at least. So that's a pattern I picked up on. And even then, Alcaraz made it to the 4th round and lost to a very much in-form Yannick Sinner. I would not rule it out. I would also say that Miami has traditionally also been is something that you would say, hey, that could be a great look at the US Open. Although actually Indian Wells, if you look at the women's side, the last 3 times the Indian Wells has been held in spring, the champion won the US Open. Osaka 2018, Andreescu 2019, Swiatek 2022.
So did not win, but yeah, it was in October, of course.
It was in October, yeah. So then when Swiatek kind of overtook it. So I would say that these events are not completely irrelevant for the later slams. They kind of build confidence, and you can do it. Clay seems to be its own kind of little island in the calendar, which I love. And actually, that kind of answers a point that Ghost has brought up about standardizing everything. No, I love the variety of tennis. I love the fact that there's different court speeds. I love the fact it brings out different styles of play. That means that like there's no one size fits all style of play that will dominate everywhere. Like you will have your day at an event that will work for you. And it rewards variety in the game, which is one of the reasons why I love this sport so much.
Yeah, we're still a lot more standardized than in the past. I mean, the number of players who, well, there are still some players, of course, who haven't won a grass match in their careers, like, I don't know, Del Bonis or, Carreño Busta probably has like 1 or 2. But
Casper Ruud, I don't think he's won one, has he?
Casper Ruud, really?
I remember
him losing to Peniston. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have a great grass record, at least. I mean, 4 and 7 from what I can see, and one of them is an exhibition. So yeah, he was in the quarterfinals in Mallorca 2021 and also beat Ramos Vinolas at Wimbledon. But lost to Ruud. But yeah, you don't really see something like in the 90s where even a lot of the clay grinders would skip Wimbledon, or someone like I think Thomas Munster, for example, the world number 1, never won a match at Wimbledon, or something crazy like that. So you don't really see that, of course, anymore. So I think we're still a lot more standardized. I guess in some ways it's for the better because Wimbledon especially wasn't. I'm not sure it would be that watchable, today for people if it was just, serve volleying and very short rallies as it was in the past. But yeah, I'm also, any way we can introduce more variety to the tour, I am very glad. So.
Bring back carpet? No, maybe not do that.
I guess it was eliminated for a reason.
It was, yeah. I mean, I see your point, Ghost, about saying hard courts should be hard courts, but even then, I think you're always going to get different speeds wherever you go, even just the difference between indoor and outdoor. And you've also got to think about different climates as well. I mean, look at Madrid.
Yeah,
Madrid's different because of the altitude, not because they use different clay.
Yeah, it's actually according to Court Pace Index or whatever the thing was, Madrid actually had slower surface than Monte Carlo and Rome, and of course it plays a lot more faster. And yeah, even in Indian Wells you see it because some of that, some of how the ball travels through the air is because of the desert, right? So you'd still have some sort of basically small adjustments to make, maybe smaller than right now. But Maxime Cressy would like to have a word with you outside. Yeah, but would he actually do that well at Wimbledon in the past? I don't know. I mean, all the matches were so 50-50-ish. Well, maybe not all, but a lot of matches were more 50-50-ish, and Cressy in general is very 50-50-ish. So I don't know. Balls, yeah. Jane said about balls that we should standardize 100%.
Do you know much about Madrid's height?
Yeah, it's like 600 or something. It's not. It's nothing crazy. Of course, it's not like Mexico City or, or Cali, whatever, Ambato, Quito. But yeah, 650 around. I mean, that's the average altitude of Madrid. I'd have to check like where the Caja Mágica is, but it's gonna be around this, something around that.
I'm just going to give an update on the match. So Leylah Fernandez has just leveled, taken it to a third set against Caroline Garcia, winning the set with a high-risk passing shot that clips the line on the forehand. So there's plenty of drama going on that court. What's happening in Auger-Aliassime versus Cerundolo? Is it turning out to be the upset we expected?
Well, it looks like he kind of has weathered the storm. I mean, he's leading 7-5 and 2-1 in the second with a break. Well, I don't think Cerundolo is like godlike form, but it would be a pretty good win for Auger-Aliassime in these conditions. And it's not like it would be easy for him after this, right? Because I think he gets to play Hurkacz or Paul next. Paul currently has a break point and the third. So he is a little bit closer to securing that meeting. And I feel like against either Hurkacz or Paul, Felix would probably be the underdog in Indian Wells. And Paul has actually broken, in fact. So
yeah, Jane, you're watching the match, I believe. So if you want to comment and see how Achi's playing, because neither of us are watching it at the minute. So if you want to give like a little bit of a summary, then by all means put that in the comments. It's not just us on the screen doing the commentating here. So let us know how you think that match is going. Paul beating Hurkacz does not surprise me. Paul is in pretty good form.
Like the odds were very close on this one, and you have to agree with this basically. Yeah.
Here's a question. They were talking about going back to our discussion about different surfaces, different speeds. It's about our preference rather than necessarily our opinion on sort of variety or anything like that. What do you prefer to watch?
Yeah, I think we're both pretty more accustomed to faster courts in terms of the watching, as it kind of just randomly is in Europe. The most events I see live are on clay, which I don't mind at all. Like I actually even said some time ago that I like watching clay live, but on TV I prefer faster hard courts. Variety is the key for sure. Whenever it's I can see something that's if it just was very ultra fast, rapid, fast hard court all the time, I would definitely get bored of it. But if it was clay only, I would also get bored of it. So if I have a preference, it's hard, and I think it's like that for you as well, right?
I must say I would get bored by the same thing all the time. But if I had the choice, it would be a faster surface. Although I prefer watching players who hit with lots of top spin. So it's weird. So I actually prefer top spin on a fast surface, weirdly. Not many players do that, which is why it's fairly unique. But then,
you basically don't enjoy tennis because not many players do.
Not many, like all these people who try to do it, but people who can make it work on fast surfaces, like Nadal.
Swiatek, one of your favorites, right?
Swiatek is currently my favorite player. Fernandez, I feel like hits with a lot of top spin at the minute. Federer was more flat than top spin, but to be honest, he could hit anything.
Federer forehand, he had quite a lot of RPMs, right?
Yeah.
So do you like Jack Sock, for example?
I've not watched that much Sock, to be honest, but Federer was my favorite. Federer, I enjoyed watching just because I never knew how the ball was going to come off the racket, and I just loved that anticipation of it. So Jane, if you want to give your opinion on how Paul is playing, how Hurkacz is playing, let us know what you think of that. Jethro is asking, do we think Byers has a chance against Fritz? pretty good win against Hijikata. Look, Jethro, I know you love Baez, but I think Fritz is probably stronger here at Indian Wells.
Yeah, I mean, Fritz had a couple of very tough ones last year against Munar, De Minaur, Kecmanovic as well. Can Baez grind as well as these guys can against Fritz? I'm not sure. And yeah, win against Hijikata. Yeah, I mean, Rinky is not really a ATP Tour player, I think. And yeah, as I said, I mean, Fritz is definitely capable of struggling in these conditions, but I'm not sure it's going to be against Baez. Yeah, but still, of course, getting a win for the Argentinian on hard courts is pretty important right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, I will say he has a chance. Like, Baez is a very good player. I really enjoyed that match. Those 2 sets he played against Carlos Alcaraz at the US Open. And I think he can frustrate Fritz. So I think he's got a chance. But I think Fritz is still pretty much the favourite. For that one. Actually, a lot of you, I know that like Jane and Jethro and Ghost were talking in the comments a lot about Diego Schwartzman. So I feel like it's appropriate to touch on him, for you, Jethro. Okay. Schwartzman last night, obviously losing, unfortunately, but kind of par for the course for him at the minute is he's just not the top 30 player that we kind of expect anymore. At least not at the moment.
Yeah, and he's going to play Phoenix, of course, as a wild card. It's his first challenger appearance since 2016. He actually is on a 10-match winning streak on the Challenger Tour, but it's going to be hard to maintain it. He is playing Nuno Borges in the opening round, and yeah, we've kind of we are at the point where a match like this basically looks like a 50-50, right? I mean, it's so hard to tell, like between Borges and Schwartzman right now on a hard court who's going to win. And I if I was a Schwartzman fan, I would not be confident in his chances, and if I was a Borges fan, I also wouldn't be confident. I mean, it's just we have to wait and see. But certainly, Diego Schwartzman winning Phoenix is sounds a little far-fetched at the moment with the quality of the field and just the sheer fact that he'd need to win 5 matches against mostly better hardcourt players than him at the moment. Maybe in his prime, probably not, but. At the moment.
Jane is giving us an update. Hubie looking a little fussy, but he's holding it together, hassling Paul in his service games, saying holding serve easier. I mean, like he's just got broken, but he is at juice on the 20-ball serve, so maybe there's some...
there's a couple of break points, actually.
Yeah, there's some... Okay, interesting.
But now it's deuce, yeah.
Yeah, some drama incoming on that one. Jethro making a couple of interesting comments about... Hurkacz wants to know what you think about those.
Okay. I mean, of course he has an issue with his forehand, accelerating from it, especially like sometimes he can hit it on the half volley and it's good, but especially in slower conditions, he has to hit through it, and it's a lot of the time it's rough, and I think it's also what is kind of forcing him to just get into that shell that he cannot climb out of when it's like a pressure moment. And it's been an issue, of course, his whole career. I kind of think that there's gonna be a moment when you have to ask the question whether this coaching thing that he has with Craig Boynton is working out, because of course they have great chemistry with each other, but has Craig really improved Hurkacz as a player in any way? Maybe at the beginning, sure, but in the past year or two, I'm not sure the answer is yes. So I think that moment will come soon if nothing changes, because Hurkacz has just shown that he can stay at this level, but the question is whether he can go upwards.
You could say similar things about Maria Sakkari and Tom Hill on the women's side. Tom Hill brings the best out of her. They obviously they're very comfortable with each other, but again, they doesn't seem to be able to take her to that next level where she's actually winning semi-finals and finals. Sometimes you have, as a player, you have to make that choice of, do you stick with your comfort zone and enjoy being on tour and get what you can get, or do you get someone who will push you? So that's
I guess it's slightly different since with Sakkari it's like strictly mental. With Hurkacz you also have the the technique element to it. But yeah, I mean I very much agree that for both guys for both players a radical change could be actually helpful. But yeah, it's hard to make this sort of decision, especially when you're still like almost in the top 10 in the case of Hurkacz, or actually in the top 10 right now. And with Sakkari is in the top 10 and like actually, doing very well. So yeah, Hurkacz is 11th, so almost in the top 10. And yeah, this sort of decision definitely doesn't come easy, especially when the coach sort of becomes like your, in terms of Sakkari and he'll probably friend, but with Boynton and Hurkacz, it's like his dad basically at this point, right? Like his second father or something like that. So yeah. It's not easy.
No, I can imagine not. It wouldn't be. And like, coaching we've seen is just like when you get that person who just gets you as a player, that's I think that's special. Tennis update, Caroline Garcia eventually holds the opening game of the third set. It was lots of juice points, break point opportunities for Fernandez, fluffed game points for Garcia, but eventually Garcia takes advantage of a long over the baseline shot from Fernandez and holds serve. Felix looks like he's one game away from winning.
Yeah, and Hurkacz is going to have another break point actually. So I just turned over to the
Hurkacz. Okay, yes. I think that's the match to
decided
watch in a minute for the ATP side anyway. I'm going to stick with this one for the WTA. But
is there anything like later in the day that you're particularly excited for?
Well, I've thought I'm going to plug the TNS app here. I can get my list of like what I'm looking forward to from today. So I'm going to see if I can watch Raducanu versus Haddad Maia when that starts. Just because I haven't been able to see much of Raducanu, even though she's playing well, I'm hoping to see a good match from her. Rybakina versus Badosa, I think, could be very interesting. Two very sort of highly motivated, competitive players are also out soon. On the men's side, you've got Stan Wawrinka versus Holger Rune. I don't know if Wawrinka will have enough to stop Rune, but I would like to see him try. I'm looking forward to seeing what that brings. And then I'm just a little bit annoyed that the Iga match is on at 1 a.m. And the Murray Draper match, because as a Brit, I'd want to see that. But 1 a.m. my time. But hey, they've got to put something big on those for the night matches at the local crowd. And I can't think of a better choice than that.
Yeah, very much the same for me. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to watch Rybakina Badosa and Wawrinka Rune. Juggling between it because I said I only have one screen here in Hungary, and I would also like to watch a lot of these night matches. For me, it starts at 2 a.m. Draper-Murray, and also Alcaraz Grigspor. I would also love to watch that, but yeah, it's probably unrealistic given the fact that playing Szekesfehérvár starts at 10 a.m. and I'm gonna have to be up at 8:30. So yeah, it's not realistic. I'm gonna miss the night matches, but it is what it is.
The match Jane is referring to here is the Hurkacz Paul one that you're watching at the minute.
Yeah. This is a good match, right, Damian? I haven't really watched it that much. We've been talking, and as I said, I mean, I have one screen, so yeah, I've watched like 10 points from it, frankly, since I switched over into from Serendolo FAA. And also Sean is asking if Radwanska was playing with, I don't know, I read it in the English way. If Radwanska was playing with today WTA ladies, do you think she could win more titles Serbian Slam? Probably with every single year, her chances would decrease, right? Like even at the end of her tenure as a top 5 player, let's say, there were more and more powerful players, just that sort of mold of the common WTA player that we have right now, which is just hit flat and heavy of both wings, basically. And all these players were causing her a lot of issues. She didn't have enough to try to break them out of her rhythm. I think bearing adjustments, she actually would have probably lesser chance at winning a slam right now than she did 5 years ago. What's your take?
Definitely right now, I think she'd probably struggle definitely with Swiatek and Sabalenka. I would maybe say that, like, I think that comment would have been true 5 years ago, 4 years ago, if Radwanska hadn't, was a little bit younger or hadn't retired as early. Maybe she could have snuck a slam when in that sort of chaos period of 2017, 2018, where basically the only consistent player was Simona Halep.
I mean, she's even beaten Halep in like 2018 or something like that. One of her last big wins. Yeah, that was certainly not the type of player that sort of blew her off the court. But her head-to-head record against Sharapova, I think, tells us everything we need to know about how she would fare against Sabalenka and the likes.
But even I think I could have seen her maybe sneaking a Wimbledon or something. But I don't know, like the Wimbledons that ended up being won during that period, maybe not. I'm just thinking because that's the one slam she reached the final of. I think she underperformed. I'm surprised she didn't do better on clay, to be honest, Radwanska.
Yeah, you'd think so, but I don't think she was ever really able to get the movement right, and also the fact that she actually had to hit through the ball, inject pace herself was also kind of rough. She didn't get that much depth. So I think it kind of made sense in the long run. It was definitely her weakest surface, and yeah, she was actually doing a lot better in any faster conditions. I guess she kind of needed that help from the surface to be any sort of a threat to her opponents. And of course, the slices and all the other stuff, they bounced very low on grass, especially. So yeah.
Maybe her biggest missed opportunity was actually Wimbledon 2013, 10 years ago.
For sure.
So close. Like that final set against Lisicki was so close. But a Barty Radwanska final would have been intriguing, to say the least, because those are very unique game styles going up against each other. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to make a comment about Bartley, so if you want to talk about Radwanska, go for it.
I remember that Bartoli played Flipkens actually in the semis. So yeah, that was a huge missed opportunity for sure. But I was surprised sort of coming back to it after years to learn that Radwanska was actually the underdog for the bookies against Lisicki, which was kind of surprising to me, right? I mean, Lisicki had a great event, of course, beating Serena. But yeah, I had this in my mind, like, Radwanska basically had to take this chance. I thought she was like a massive favorite against both Lisicki and then potentially against Bartoli and Flipkens. But maybe not so much, actually. I mean, but as you said, it was super close. It was a better chance than playing Serena in the 2012 Wimbledon final. Yeah, she only beat Serena once at the Hopman Cup, so not 100% official match, let's say, even though, of course, it's not like Serena was not giving her best effort. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that 2013 final, I mean, like, I was gutted for Lisicki that she didn't perform, and especially since all the injuries she had afterwards, like, she clearly had a lot of potential. But then the way Barty kind of won it finally, after she'd been in the final before in 2007, and then after beating Enan, I mean, who was looking really good to win that Wimbledon, and then 2013 getting it, and then retiring a few months later. I just like that sort of slightly romanticized storyline of like, I win and I can't, and like that was her last chance to win something because her body gave up pretty quickly afterwards. So I'm not going to begrudge her that slam. A lot of people getting very excited about Paul versus her catch. Do you want to talk us through the closing moments of that, Damian?
My stream is really way behind, but
Is it not great? Okay.
I mean, I know what the I know what the scoreline is already, but I can tell you what it is on my screen. And Tommy is just 30 love up. He tried to serve and volley and had to play a pretty clumsy half volley, but it worked because the kick serve was just threw Hurkacz out of the stadium basically. It's also something that has been working very well on these courts, of course, with the high bounce. And so Paul, on my screen at least, is 2 points away from victory. and he just Hurkacz cannot make that return, so it's 3 match points for the American. I think Hurkacz, whenever he played Indian Wells in the past, he always reached the 4th round, so this would be his first exit before that stage.
I think Jane's probably on about the same level as you, to be honest, Damian. I mean, I know that. So you're not spoiling it. You're not miles behind anyone.
That's good. That's good. There's a rally at 3 match points up for Paul, and Hurkacz just cannot put that forehand into the court. So we have Tommy Paul in the 4th round, and he's gonna play Auger-Aliassime already. No, actually, Auger-Aliassime was leading 5-2, 5-1, or something along these lines. 5-2, missed 2 match points on serve at 5-3, and now he's gonna serve again to try to close it out. Sorry, at 5-2 he missed 2 match points, and now he's gonna serve at 5-4 to close it, to try to close it out again.
Standard Felix making his life harder than it needs to be, really.
Yeah, Paul Felix is gonna be quite an even 4th round match, I think. Paul definitely is very live in that one.
I'd probably favour Paul. I think, as you said, Felix has traditionally struggled here. I think Paul's feeling a lot more confident right now, looking good in Australia and in the American warm-ups and Acapulco. So it would be interesting. I mean, we've talked a lot about what people can add. Is there anything you feel like that Felix is missing at the minute? See you later, Ghosty.
I don't know. It's a hard question. I mean, when he played Lehečka at the Australian Open, he definitely seemed like the less complete player of the two. Especially with how Lehečka was able to target his backhand and just never really had any glaring weaknesses, something that Felix could expose. So I think, Felix could be potentially sort of stuck in this sort of level where he can claim 500 titles, where he can easily claim 250 titles, but big ones we're kind of going to see. And most of them, I think, are actually kind of out of his reach right now, Is he going to do it on clay? I'm not sure. I mean, if he's going to win 1,000, it's probably like Miami, Paris. Can he win that? Probably can. What else is there? Shanghai, if it comes back. I guess that would be a pretty good event for him. I wonder if he ever played Shanghai even. And Cincy, I suppose. And Canada, of course, at home. Maybe there's actually more chances than I initially
finals, let's be honest.
Come again?
He could win the ATP finals.
Yeah.
Depending on who else is in there. And what kind of day they're having. Like, if let's say this is in a few. Let's say take Djokovic and Nadal out of it. Definitely Nadal. Take Djokovic out of it. It'd be pretty even potentially.
I mean, last year he was considered one of the main favorites, right? Of course, it didn't really pan out, but I think going into the ATP finals, everyone thought of him as like a top 3, 4, max top 4 favorite for the ATP finals. So.
Me included.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So, are you going back to the Felix Cerundolo match? Because, Cerundolo's love 30 on the Felix serve to get it back to 5-all.
I guess I will.
I mean, unless you want to watch Fernandez Garcia with me.
Right now it's not like I'm watching anything anyway, right? I mean,
that's true.
I'm jumping through tabs and jumping from your face to a match to some random thing that I have to Google quickly. So
fair. Yeah, no, to be fair, like my angle I've got, I have to look up to watch the match. I mean, it's pretty competitive, I have to say. Like, I enjoyed Garcia versus Fernandez at the Australian Open. I thought it was a really competitive 2-set match they played, and
for sure, yeah.
This one's really lived up to it as Garcia sets up a break point opportunity to it's Fernandez serving at 1-2, 30-40, and Garcia's looking ready to go. They've been playing for 2 hours. Do you know what? I'm gonna dust off the commentary muscles as Fernandez serves that first serve into the net rather limply. Might be worth talking about later, Fernandez, because I know you and I might have different opinions on her. And second serve, up the middle. Garcia attacks on the return, and Fernandez can't get a racket on it. Game, Garcia, break up 3-1. And maybe on her way into the next round.
Matthew also said something slightly harsh in the comments about Hurkacz, but I think there is some merit to it. Hurkacz has been reduced to guy content to make a good living from the sport. I think that's kind of who he is. Personally, he is not very naturally confident. He is very modest. He is not full of himself, which is a good trait in general. But whether that actually makes you more likely to be the very best in a sport, I would say someone like Holger Rune, who believes he's the very best, and still puts in the effort, of course, just like Hurkacz. But I think that sort of natural confidence is something that Hurkacz is lacking, and it has kind of stopped him a bit in his career. I think it's also one of the aspects that make him go into that shell whenever there's get back into that shell whenever there's a pressure point or whatever, and just be passive again and not trust especially his forehand, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, your comparison of, I would agree with you. You have to believe you're the best and put the effort in, because Nick Kyrgios believes he's the best but doesn't put the effort in, and we see where that gets him most of the time. Hurkacz, I think, are there any other tennis players that you could think of who are just sort of in that situation where they're just sort of content to make a good living because they know they can do pretty well most times they show up?
I don't know, hard to come up with an example, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys like that, even though they actually aren't going to tell you that. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of guys like that, especially in the lower ranks, right, where they don't really believe that they're going to have a big breakthrough. They're just sort of going by and making a living that satisfies them, which is fine. Not everyone, of course, has the potential. Even if you believe in yourself and even if you work super hard, it doesn't exactly mean that you're gonna be the world number one. I mean, if I just started training the tennis right now, 6 hours a day, it would give me nothing. It's not that easy, but I think if you're a player almost at the very top, like Hurkacz, you kind of have to believe. And I'm not sure he does.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because he definitely can do well. He has his moments, particularly on grass. I think he's one of the best grass court guys out there right now. Sure. But I don't know quite what he is. And speaking of grass, why isn't there a Grass 1000 tournament? I think it's a lot of different factors. I think the grass season is short for a reason. I think the big problem is Wimbledon is so entrenched its spot in the calendar. It's very difficult to move because it's not just about the tennis calendar, right? It's also about the British sporting calendar. It's kind of very much a cultural event here in the UK. It's the one time the entire country shuts down because of tennis, compared to the same thing happens when the Open Golf happens, when the only comparison would be football or soccer, depending which country you're in, shutting it down. But if you're here, I don't know if you've ever been here in the UK, Damian, when Wimbledon's on.
I've never been to the period, so
during Wimbledon, it's wall-to-wall tennis coverage on two of the biggest channels in the country. But we don't care about it any other time of the year. So I think Wimbledon, there's a lot of other factors that means it can't move. And I would imagine it's a similar situation with the French Open. They managed to move Wimbledon 1 week. I doubt they'd be able to move it much more. So then when do you put 1,000 in? The only option would be to upgrade one of the current 1,000 events. And the only one really you could do is Halle. The other problem is that, yes, money is a factor because there are only limited amount of 1,000 events and they're pretty entrenched because whoever currently holds 1,000 events pays a lot of money for it. So you either have to expand the licenses or someone has to be outbid. The other problem is, of course, to run a grass court tournament is incredibly expensive because of the maintenance involved of looking after 20-odd grass courts. Wimbledon do it because, again, it's just a massive event. They just get huge income every year. So I'd say that's main problems with it. I'd like to see a grass court 1000 event. I'd like to see more grass on the tour. But actually, I think maybe rather than having grass all in one go, maybe we need to think about, well, you have these weird sort of extra clay seasons like the South American Golden Swing in February, or this weird sort of post-Wimbledon clay swing that happens before the US Open.
You've got Newport after Wimbledon, right?
Yeah,
it's not a swing, but you've got one event.
We could expand grass so it's a few more grass ones afterwards, but I think people will be focused on the US Open. Like, you'd have to put it somewhere it's a little bit more relevant. Australia's got a decent grass court as well.
Oh, yeah. No, I think we've already expanded the grass season like a few years ago, and by a week, and I think that was certainly quite nice. And otherwise, I'm not sure there's much need to do anything. Frankly, grass is the traditional surface. We should try to maintain people playing on grass courts. But yeah, it is very hard to maintain again, and it's no wonder that like there's only a few select venues in the world realistically where you could hold a Masters 1000 event. I'm pretty sure like something like Stuttgart would probably want to, or maybe Halle or Queens if they did something with the facilities, but it's not easy. And I understand that grass court tennis fans like more hardcore than I am, because I love grass tennis, but like I also like any other thing. But like more hardcore grass tennis fans aren't going to be happy about what how it is right now, because most players can't really play on grass. Like the top guys especially, right? They just have very little practice on it, and we end up with some very, like, if Djokovic is out, the Wimbledon field is so open already.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who would win it? It would be
Berrettini 2 years ago, and
Berrettini, Hurkacz, Kyrgios,
maybe. Yeah.
I still think Medvedev is a contender on grass, because
I think he should be at some point. Yeah.
Let's face it. Every time he's lost at Wimbledon, it's been at 5 sets. Like, every time he's lost.
Last year he didn't play. Hurkacz, Goffin, and that's all. Or
there's a couple of people before that, but
I think he lost to like Bemelmans in 2017. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. So you're basically speaking about Goffin and Hurkacz, right?
Goffin and Hurkacz particularly. Yeah. Matthew makes a good point. Nadal would probably be a contender if he was fit and healthy, probably. But I think it's what also makes grass special is now it's a unique surface. You have to adapt, and the best players are the ones who adapt the best. I think Alcaraz and Sinner will be fine on grass, judging by the signs of it. Sinner seems to crack that from going from like struggling to win on it to getting to the Wimbledon quarterfinals and going 2 sets to love up on Djokovic. Was an incredible turnaround. Alcaraz looks very comfortable on it. I think his game suits any surface. I think we'll be fine for grass. I don't think it's going to be that sort of niche surface for too long, but I do like how you have to step your game up and adapt to a surface you're not used to win.
Also the Channel Slam, how the short time between the two. That's a nice aspect of it as well.
Agreed. Yeah. And like actually you see a lot more, people think, clay and grass are like complete opposites, and they kind of are in terms of the way the ball behaves, but you see also a lot of players who are just comfortable on both surfaces because they prefer natural surfaces to hard courts. Ons Jabeur is good on both on the women's side.
There's a good example somewhere very close that I cannot get to right now, but there are players. Tsitsipas in the beginning of his career was considered for a moment like that. Then, of course, it turned out that on grass he's not actually going to do that well. But there was a moment I remember when he reached like the forefront at Wimbledon, right after a good run at the French. Berrettini, maybe you could make the case.
Yeah, Berrettini's pretty good on clay. He's a Madrid finalist. I mean, like he's also won titles on clay, slower clay than Madrid. So
no, but that's not it. I mean, there are definitely players, but they cannot come up with it right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's been a long day. For those who are interested, by the way, Garcia's taking complete control of the match, and she's 30 love up 5-1 double break in the decider. So she's very much taken control of this match with Leylah Fernandez.
Felix has a 6 match point.
6?
Yeah.
How?
Well, we'll see if he takes this one, because it's actually like maybe more Cerundolo in control of the point, although that's kind of evened out by now. They're just hitting from Felix's inside-out forehand to Cerundolo's backhand. A very long pattern there, but Felix tries to change something, but can't really do as so. I mean, he wasn't able to do that much damage with the forehand to Cerundolo, but the Argentine gave him a little bit of a cheap error, and the match is finally over.
Okay, lots of double faults from Giotto. Yes, because I was like, it's Felix's 6th match point while trying to serve at 5-4. That's the kind of stat you see in a tiebreak. Garcia's just put her match away with Fernandez 6-4, 6-7, 6-1. Good fight from Fernandez, as you can expect. And the only other match going on right now is Karolina Muchova against Martina Trevisan, and Muchova might be 2 points away.
She also had a medical timeout earlier, which, of course, when it comes to her, is very common and very worrying, because we're still waiting for that moment when Muchova is going to be able to play for a year at least, while not having any physical issues. Hopefully, it's not right now. Of course, Trevisan is not a very strong hardcourt player, but in these clayish conditions, she could cause some issues.
Yeah.
Muchova
is a player who I really like and rate really highly, and it's been very frustrating, these injuries that keep happening to her. She's a bit like Del Potro in some ways on the men's side historically, maybe with slightly less success, because obviously she's
interesting. Oh God. Yeah.
If you think about it, Del Potro, whenever he showed up fully fit, was a contender. Muchova, the first 2 times she played Wimbledon, got to the quarterfinals both times. That in my mind marked her out as potential champion if she's fully fit. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, she's beaten top players in good form, like Barty in Australia a few years back. I enjoy watching Muchova play. I think a lot of people do, and I hope that she finds her way back to the top.
Yeah, no disagreement there. What else are we going to talk about, Nick? Because I guess
I think given you probably need to get up to cover the challenger in what's the place called again? I can't pronounce it in English.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing it 100% right either, but it's called Székesfehérvár. In Hungarian, it's basically like sh and s are upside down. So when you have an sz, you pronounce it like s, and when you have an s, you pronounce it like sh, like shak or whatever. So that's why it's Székesfehérvár. And then in that Fehérvár, there's a couple of accents that I have no idea how to pronounce. So I just say Székesfehérvár. It's fine, actually. I haven't really had to say that to anyone here, because I bought my train ticket from Budapest in a vending machine, so to speak.
So who's playing at this challenger? Any name? Don't even worry about names we'll recognize. Just go for it. Who's playing?
I mean, it's a challenger 50, so players ranked. It has to be players ranked 151 and below.
Okay.
I think that the main storyline is the free Hungarian 98, 99 generation boys, or whatever you want to call them. I think all of them have a serious chance of making it into the top 100 in the future. Mate Valkus and Zsombor Piros, you probably have heard of. Valkus probably not, but Zsombor Piros, they've been injured all the time. Piros is, of course, a former junior Grand Slam champion. And Fabian Marozsan is the other one. He's the top seed and just won a challenger in Antalya as well. So I think that's the biggest story here. Honestly, I just wanted to see an indoor clay event live. And also, I'm not really actively trying to tick countries off the map or something like that. But whenever I get a realistic chance of being in a new country at a tennis event, that's something very exciting to me. So I'm having a lot of fun here. It's certainly something else, that indoor clay venue. You can feel the clay in the air that you breathe, and it's pretty hilarious. It was so hard to get here as well because they're not used to foreign press applicants. Let's say that.
Right. Yeah, I could imagine that. I mean, like, yes, like, there's a Budapest WTA 250 event. That's probably the biggest Hungarian tennis
And
event.
there hasn't been a challenger in 4 years, I think. And there used to be an ATP 250 in Budapest as well. I think in 2018 probably was the last edition. Taro Daniel won it over Malek Jaziri. So a pretty random final, right, for an ATP Tour event.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And like, let's face it, the ATP 250 comes up with some really random ones.
John says he's in Lebanon. Wow, he's traveling now. I mean, Hungary,
Yeah.
it's a European country. He is in Lebanon. Jesus. Are you in Beirut? Is the only Lebanese country I know. There's actually a Lebanese player though here in Sekesfehervar. He's gonna play the second seed, Flavio Coppoli. Tomorrow, Benjamin Hassan. He's got like dual German Lebanese citizenship. He represents Lebanon in Davis Cup. And like he used to play for Germany. I think he now plays for Lebanon again. Like, keeps switching.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know. There's some country usually has some tennis representation out there.
Yeah, Lebanon actually has a very strong Davis Cup team, which kind of sounds weird. But with Hassan and Hadi Habib, Habib was a college player, and it's also like in the 300s right now or something like that. Sean has some question. Can you name 3 most favorite active WTA players? Same about ATP. You can name least favorite too. Okay, this is like you have to think about this.
Okay. I did a Twitter thread where I named my favorite WTA players. I went to about 12, but like there are some more than others, and like the sort of people I generally support. But yeah, I can tell you my top 3 WTA players quite easily, and I can probably tell you my top 3 ATP, so I can fill that while you're thinking. So 3 favorite WTA players at the minute. Iga Swiatek. Right now, I love her game style. I love the high spin, high intensity style. I really appreciate how quite often she can hit a ball and somehow it lands in. Really enjoyed that sort of point that she played yesterday where she was just moving all over the court. Just really great to watch in my opinion. Also really appreciate her slightly more bookish, introverted character. Leylah Fernandez, really enjoy her scrappy game style. It's a little bit underpowered, but she just brings so much to the table in terms of entertainment value when watching, in terms of her personality. I think she kind of punches above her weight a little bit a lot of the time. But she definitely did in that US Open run to the final. If she hadn't been playing Emma Raducanu, would have definitely been rooting for her. But as a Brit who wanted that sort of fairy tale win, and I knew Raducanu more than Fernandez at the point, I was rooting for Raducanu, who I would probably put as my third. Again, really appreciate her kind of weird counter aggressive style. Think that she's underappreciated especially for that US Open run. I think there's more to come from her, and also there's that Brit factor in there as well. Those are my top 3 WTA. So I'll let you talk about maybe your top 3 from whichever side, and I'll do my ATP.
Okay. I'll start on the WTA, then you'll go for the ATP, and we'll switch. So for WTA, I think I wasn't really I haven't given this that much thought, but just looking through the ranking list right now, I would have to go with Rybakina. I love how despite that sort of maybe surfboardish style, she also has like really impeccable timing on her flat strokes. I also like that attitude of hers, sort of that she doesn't really give a care, right? Like that's something that maybe doesn't resonate with me, but I find it fun. I find it very like weird when people are very like harsh towards it and criticize it. Kim Wensheng, I think is super exciting and possibly about to break through. Just someone that I would like to be watching at the very top of the women's game for years to come. And as my third, I would have to say Victoria Golubic for the one-handed backhand. I absolutely love the one-handers, and she's basically like the only beautiful one-hander right now on the WTA tour, I would say. I mean, maybe Diane Parry has a say with that. but otherwise it's like some slices like Maria or I don't know, Mayohibi. So yeah, it's definitely my favorite one-hander on the WTA side.
Yeah, I will say I do enjoy watching Rebecca as well, particularly for that ice cool attitude she has. And that's how I would describe it. And with you on the one-handed backhands, there needs to be more of those. I think I prefer Parry's backhand to Golubic's, but there's not much in it. But yeah, so it's interesting. There's a interesting that both being Federer fans, we've got in slightly different directions with our WTA picks. You're definitely going for the serve bot, but also the one-handed backhand sort of spot server, and I'm going for like the crazy variety side of things. But having said that, I think we can both kind of agree on Rebecca anyway. ATP right now, ATP is hard because I find WTA more interesting on the whole, so I watch it more often. Although right now I do have Wawrinka versus Rune on. But I would say ATP right now, number one, Andy Murray. I think just from the emotional investment in his journey, more so than his game style, is probably what's kind of driving me to back him at the minute. Who else on the ATP side? I think I can't ignore Carlos Alcaraz right now. I know it makes me sound like a bit of a glory hunter, but he's just so exciting to watch. Like, I've never seen someone with such a high tennis IQ who can mix things up and play so distinct shots one after the other or hit anything. And I think he's always box office for me. So even if he never wins another slam, I'm always going to enjoy watching him. And
that's not happening though, right?
Yeah, not happening. And I think it's going to cause me a lot of pain over the years, but I'm going to have to say Felix. More for his personality, and partly because, if I'm really honest, I did a "Which tennis player are you?" quiz on BuzzFeed or something, and I came out as Felix. So I'm like, okay, clearly we're similar personalities, allegedly. So maybe he's just someone that I'd want to spend time with as a human being. So I'd go with that. But yeah, ATP interests me slightly less than WTA at the minute.
Yeah, I'm the other way around. So I watch a lot more ATP for sure. I'm gonna spare you like my Challenger ITF favorites. Some like.
You could do that if you want. You could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, my favorite Polish player, for example, is Paweł Ciaś. I have a favorite one-hander on the ATP side as well, with Jeremy Yan. But just from the top level, it's mostly the youngsters. It's mostly players that are still sort of breaking through. I have 5 names here. I'm not sure which 3 to pick.
Just go for 5.
Yeah, I guess I can. I have Shelton here as I just love the energy that he brings to the court, the big stage big stage player character that he has, and just the sort of constantly pumping himself up and etc. I think it's super fun to watch. Yibing Wu, I think his hand skills are just insane, and the whole story of not playing for like 3 years and then coming back. And I'm so excited to see where that takes him. And I also have Arthur Fils is definitely one of my favorites for the past 2 years or so. I mean, I've been just constantly saying that this guy is on the verge of a breakthrough. Right now, it actually sort of has happened already. But I'm just very happy to have sort of stuck with him even when there were some tough issues. And I think it's certainly very exciting to see someone who is both complete and explosive. And I think there's very little caps on his potential as well. And I have to mention both Alcaraz and Rune as guys that I would definitely love to watch more in the future. Honestly, the more hate I read about Holger Rune's character, the more I even want him to succeed. And there's definitely a part of me that sort of wants to steer away from the general trend And yeah, I just think he's a very fun character, and he's very nice in person. So I don't really mind the fact that he gets so agitated on the court and etc. You can see that it kind of comes from his mother as well. So I think he's maybe a bit of a kid still, but of course this is a guy whom I would love to be watching. I'd love to be watching for years to come. And yeah, Alcaraz, I totally agree. I think he's just an amazing big free sort of successor. He's just incredibly talented, at the same time has this sort of personality where that he's gonna be as important to people, maybe like he can be as important to people as Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal were. And I just think he's got like the full package to be the next tennis superstar. So and that's not really why I like him. I mean, he's just super exciting to watch, but that's just another reason. So yeah, these would be like my favorites of the top level of the game, let's say.
One name I will, because you've cheated, I'm going to put one name out there from the ATP that I just realized. Oh yeah, no, I really like it, and it's purely for his sarcasm, and it's Daniil Medvedev. purely for just his sarcasm, and I will always love him for the more you boo me, the better I do. At the US Open a few years back, so I can't fault him for just having a personality. I'm assuming John is talking about padel and not pickleball, because if it's pickleball, I feel like Isabel's going to resign.
Yeah, loved by Ljubicic, it's probably going to be. Or actually, I don't know. I know Ivan Ljubicic is a very good chess player, but I'm not sure it's similar to tennis.
Oh, wait. No, you can see that because it's a mental game.
I mean, I know he's a great chess player. Like, not great in terms of like a grandmaster or something, but like a very good intermediate player. So I'm not sure if that's what John is talking about.
Well, be chess.
Maybe.
I remember once Andy Murray comparing tennis to boxing, and like similar. I've thought about it, and like actually there is a sort of a similarity in sort of the one-on-one, trying to figure your opponent out, maybe trying to do something a bit different to undermine them, type battle that kind of goes on. But I could see, like, if you were to compare kind of the mental aspect of the sports, I could see chess being kind of similar. So I wait to see what John tags us in. And if you want to see, find us on Twitter, where can we find you, Damian?
Well, on Twitter you can find me under my name simply. My handle is my name, Damian Kustia. Very simple. That's how it. That's how I created it, and well, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, and you can find me.
What's your handle?
At Nick_BCart.
Ah, makes sense. I was wondering if I could like remember, but I would probably go for like Nick Carter simply.
Well. I set it up when I was 15, and just
you can change it.
I can change it, I know, but like I can't be bothered, and I can't think of a better name.
So is B for your second name?
Yeah.
This event in Hungary that I'm at right now is like the very first press credential I got with my two names on it, because like that wasn't really my idea. Like they just asked me to send over my the photos of my ID, and they just took it from, and it's like a little weird because I don't use my second name, right? It's always just the the name and the surname, but well, whatever.
Yeah.
I
think we've had a good chat about Indian Wells. It's 22
and about 1 billion other things.
About many other things, but that's what Talking Tennis is here for. We talk about tennis and lots of things, and hopefully we'll be back to talk more about what's happening in Indian Wells at some point this week. Obviously, John is in Lebanon, so anything we do, we'll probably need to sign off from him, but we won't cause. I think he'll be happy that we haven't caused too much chaos. So I'm going to settle down. I'm going to watch. Well, I've got a choice of two women's matches at the moment. I've actually put on Paula Badosa against Elena Rybakina, so I'll probably watch that for a bit and see how the Raducanu score goes, and if it looks like Emma's winning, I'll switch over. And Damian, you're probably going to watch Wawrinka versus Rooney.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. That's probably what I'm going to end up with here. Yeah.
All right. Well, hope you've enjoyed the stream. Please do subscribe to the channel for more tennis content coming your way. Definitely want to keep talking with you guys. It's been really great speaking to Ghost, to Jane, to Shun, to Matthew, to Jethro, who's popped in. And we'll be back to talk more tennis and maybe do a little bit more kind of proper commentary at some point. But yeah, we will wish you well, and I hope you all have a good evening.